Good afternoon, everyone. Thank you so much for joining us today for how to know if your SEO provider is helping or hurting your home care agency. I know many of you are often barraged with emails and calls from other SEO agencies saying, hey, we can help you out. So we wanted to give you some tips on how to know if they may be a good provider or not. On today's call, we have several corecubed members, but before I do the introductions, I want to point out the little Q&A button that you'll see probably near the bottom of your screen. We will have a Q&A session at the end of the webinar, so feel free to type your questions during the middle of the presentation, or you can save them to the end, but we will get to those questions. All right. My name is Marissa Snook, and I am one of two managing directors here at corecubed. I've been working with in-home care marketing for many years, and I'm also the program administrator for MOST, which is a turnkey marketing program specifically for home care and home health care agencies. And I love SEO, and I love help with SEO. We also have Amy Selly on the line. Amy Selly is the other managing director of corecubed. My internet connection said it was unstable, so hopefully you can hear me all right. But Amy, I'll let you do a little more introducing of yourself, just in case my audio was weird.
Sure. So I have worked on the provider side, like most of you, actually working for senior care companies and doing their marketing for them. And so I've experienced SEO from being on the home care agency side and feeling way back when, like, what are you talking about when you're talking to me about SEO? And I know it can seem like a whole different language to some people. We know that home care experts are experts in home care and not necessarily in SEO. And so I really have come a long way in my understanding, and I really appreciate, how people need to be educated about the services that are being provided to them, and really want to do that for the industry and for our customers.
Thank you, Amy. We also have Leanne Hoyer on the phone with us on the webinar. She's our lead content architect at corecubed and is an amazing writer with a definite passion for content marketing. Leanne, I'll let you say a little bit about yourself.
Sure. Hi, everyone. I have been working with corecubed since 2010, so about 8 years now, and doing primarily writing and content marketing for our home health care and home care clients. And I've really enjoyed learning the industry over these past 8 years and really feel confident knowing how people search for home care now online, and the types of words they use when they're searching, and helping our clients put together blogs and content for their websites so that they can get found in those searches. So that's my passion. That's what I do here, and I'm happy to help answer any questions about it.
Thank you, Leanne. All right, let's dive into the content. Amy, I'm going to let you talk about this slide a little bit.
Sure. I think it's a good starting point is to talk about what SEO is. And I think most of us know that, but for those who don't, SEO stands for search engine optimization, and it's the process of optimizing the quality of your website so that it ranks higher. We all want our business websites to rank higher so that consumers see them when they're searching. And because there are so many websites today, search engines have developed quality measures that they use to determine which websites to show to consumers first, second, and so on down the list. SEO was not as important 10, 15 years ago for a few reasons. Fewer companies had websites. There were less companies overall, and there were definitely less home care companies for sure. Also, fewer people relied on the internet to find services. But today, SEO is a crucial part of your home care marketing strategy. It's listed in the Home Care Pulse 2018 benchmarking study as a top consumer marketing source for home care agencies. And frankly, home care agencies that don't do it are going to get left behind. It's a literal race to rank, and companies who work on it on a monthly basis are going to lead the pack versus companies that don't. And there's another statistic that we're looking at on this slide. SEO is responsible for nearly 25% of an agency's annual revenue. That's for agencies who bill 2.8 million in annual revenue. And that also comes from the Home Care Pulse 2018 benchmarking study. So in addition to being something that's crucial to your marketing effort, it's also very complex. There are quite a few variables to think about with SEO. The search engines have a bunch of different quality indicators that they're measuring on your website to determine how to rank it. And in order to work on these quality indicators, you have to understand first what they are. You need to keep up with them on a regular basis. And then, this is the fun part that we are always on the watching out for. You have to be able to adjust to the constant changes in algorithms and requirements that the search engines make throughout the year. So hiring an expert to provide SEO services is really the best way to ensure that it's done both correctly and consistently. But what we're going to talk about today is how do you know if you've hired a good SEO provider, and what are some of the questions that you can ask?
So this is Leanne. In general, a good SEO provider should hit several key points. First of all, they should be improving the quality of your website based on watching how users interact with it. So you want an SEO provider who is not only getting in there and throwing some keywords into your website and hoping that those keywords help you rank higher. They're going to watch your website and watch how people are interacting with the pages on your website, where they're clicking, and try to determine why they're clicking the links on your site that they're clicking, how we can get people to click elsewhere on your site, and that sort of thing. They're also going to grow your organic traffic for your site. And that's part of that is, as Amy mentioned, a very complex process of keywords and search rankings. And that's the next point. We're going to improve your search rankings, help you generate more leads and sales. And most of all, you want an SEO provider. A good SEO provider is going to play by the rules and engage only with white hat SEO practices. There are plenty of SEO providers out there. You've probably gotten emails from just out of the blue from people saying, oh, I looked at your site and your site has these issues on it. You really need to make sure that anyone you're working with is yes, taking a look at your site and seeing what errors and issues your site might have, but that the tactics that they use to improve your site are what we call white hat or good practices that are approved or accepted by Google and other search engines as good, because there are black hat practices out there that will get you get your website tagged by Google as inappropriate. So you want to make sure you're working with a white hat SEO provider.
If I can just jump in there, Leanne recently made a comment to me that I thought was very helpful, and that was that 10 years ago it was SEO was kind of like the Wild West, and people were trying everything to rank, and so there weren't as many rules about what you could do and couldn't do. Today, that's very different. It has evolved over time. And so if you think about the Wild West, there's the white hat cowboys and the black hat cowboys. And you really want to be working with somebody today who abides by those white hat practices, because if you don't, the consequences can be pretty dire, including, your website being blacklisted.
Exactly.
So what might be some black hat tactics to look out for? One thing that I hear a lot from what I would call SEO providers that would raise a red flag to me would be, I can get you ranked #1 for XYZ keywords. You can never guarantee top placement, because unless you're Google itself, because you don't control that. You can take steps to try and increase ranking for keywords, but you can't ever guarantee top placement for anyone. So if you ever hear that when you're shopping for an SEO provider, tick that box as a red flag. If somebody says, I can buy you hundreds of links, that's going to increase your ranking. That is a tactic that worked many years ago, but now is not going to help you with Google. Google is not going to rank all of those junky little sites as helping your site. In fact, if Google gets wind of the fact that you're trying to scam the system one way or the other, they will basically take you off the web. It will be almost impossible for people to find you. And I have had that happen to clients. I had a client that was rated #1. She had all of these calls coming in, but her provider was using black hat tactics. Google got wind of it, blacklisted her, and it has taken her 2 or 3 years now to crawl back up out of those black hat tactics. So it's really, really not something that you want to mess with. Google's gotten a lot savvier with how they recognize these black hat tactics. So just don't jump into that pool. Work with somebody that is doing progress in a way that Google approves. Another thing that may be an indicator that you're not working with a good SEO provider is that they only focus on a small portion of items that affect your SEO ranking. There are, probably over 100 different things that Google looks at in order to judge whether or not you have a quality website. And that's the key, is the word quality. They're really looking to help people find sites that have the best information. So they are doing things like looking at your content to see, is this content that other people are liking or sharing? Are a lot of people coming to this website and spending time reading the content on this site? Those are all indicators to Google that you have a quality site. Are other websites that are also high quality linking over to this website saying that it's a good site? That will help Google recognize your site as quality. But it's not just about adding content to your site. It's not just about adding links back to your site. It's about all of these things together. Do these SEO tactics not only bring people to your site, but when people are on your site, are they able to find what they want to find quickly? That's also a part of SEO that oftentimes people overlook. You can drive tons of people to your site, but if they can't find the information that they want because your website isn't laid out in a way that they can easily access, or you don't have the information that they're looking for, then they're going to leave right away. They're not going to call you for your services. So don't lose sight of that end game with SEO. You definitely want them to give you a call or fill out your contact forms or apply for a position. So make sure they answer these questions the following way. We're going to go through a number of questions that you can ask when you're interviewing an SEO provider. all of these should be a yes. And I'll let Leanne talk a little bit more about them.
Yeah. So one of the first questions that you want to make sure you're getting a yes answer to with an SEO provider is, are you correcting site errors regularly? So your website is not just a thing that you can put together and be done with. It is sort of a living thing on the internet. As Amy mentioned once to me, your website is kind of like a smartphone, especially those of you who are working on a CMS website, like a WordPress website. You're going to have errors just happen naturally with those kinds of sites because your plugins that you use on your website are going to need updating, and there are updates to WordPress itself that need to happen regularly. And so if those updates aren't being made, that can throw up errors, and that's going to get noticed and harm your SEO. So you need those fixed regularly. Another reason that your site will show errors, and it's even if you're not working on a WordPress site, if you're on an HTML site, Google's algorithms change. And so those algorithm changes will reflect on your site if you have too long, if the algorithm is now looking for a certain length in your blog titles, for example, or your metadata descriptions, and you have blog titles and metadata descriptions that are too long for the new algorithm, that's going to show as an error. Or so there's multiple things in your website reasons that your website is going to show errors throughout time. So you want to have someone who is going to get in there and regularly fix those, because not fixing them can lead to frustrated viewers, people who get on your website and can't find what they're looking for, or your website is slowing down because of the errors in the back end. So your pages aren't loading fast enough. Your viewers are going to get frustrated. They're going to leave your site earlier than they might have, and you're going to get decreased web traffic and decreased time spent on your site, or possibly, worse things. So your SEO provider should not let minor errors go, because they will turn into major ones. So is the metadata you're writing enticing enough to get your target audience to click on your website? So your metadata is more than just keywords. It is kind of like an advertisement for your company, and it needs to be compelling, well-written, easy to read, and should encourage those who might need your services to visit your site. And in the next couple of slides, we're going to show where your meta descriptions show up on when people are searching on Google. So a meta description for a particular page is it's put in the back end of your website, and it's going to show whenever someone does a Google search for you. And this will look familiar. We blurred out the names to save the innocent, but these are examples of bad meta descriptions. So your meta description for a page should tell people about what's on the page so that they are enticed to click to know more about that service or that page.
Yeah.
So, go ahead, Amy.
I was just going to say, your metadata is such a great opportunity to advertise your company. And gosh, look at how weird it looks when you're just stuffing a bunch of different words in there. The character length for metadata just increased recently. And so you actually got more space to write a really cohesive sentence about why people should do business with your agency. And we see these agencies that are just, stuffing a bunch of words in there, not writing a sentence that makes sense to a human being, and doesn't say anything compelling to the consumer. And so you want to use that space wisely. It should include keywords, but it should be written in a relevant, compelling way that is going to make people want to do business with your agency, and not just be kind of a random effort of stuffing words into the space.
Mm-hmm. And these three are examples of exactly what Amy was talking about. These folks are using that space well. They're including keywords within the text of their meta descriptions and their metadata, and talking about their business, and using the space. The length of the new meta descriptions, as Amy said, got a lot longer. So they're using that space well. By writing clear, cohesive sentences that also incorporate keywords for their businesses, and are speaking to a human audience. So it's not just keyword stuffing. It's really a short little advertisement for the people who are searching for these services using these keywords.
And can we stay back on that slide for just a second? So what are the keywords on this page? If you look at the second one, Topeka Home Care, Topeka Senior Care, those are keyword phrases, but look at how they're put into the sentence. You know, it doesn't say Topeka Home Care, comma, Senior Care, comma, in-home care, comma, home health care. They're worked into sentences that are readable and say something positive about the agency to attract the consumer. So just, we don't want people wasting this space.
Yeah, that's a good point, because you don't want, there are some SEO providers out there who are still a bit old school with their keywords, and particularly in metadata. Like on that last slide with the bad examples, they're just stuffed in there. They're just a bunch of keywords. You want your SEO provider to really understand content marketing on top of their SEO knowledge as well, because you need those keywords to be well incorporated into your content, so that it's readable, and because that's something Google loves. Google loves good content written for a target audience, and so you really want to make sure that even your meta descriptions are readable and say something about your company.
The next question you can ask a provider that you're interviewing is, are you going to be working on earning high quality backlinks to my site every month? Backlinks to your site is still one of the major algorithms that Google is looking at to judge the quality of your site. But again, it's not about the quantity of links so much as it is about the quality of links. So if you have links from other sites that have to do with home care or healthcare or seniors, Google will see that as relevant to your services. They like seeing that relevancy. If it's another local provider, that also looks relevant to them. And whether or not the site that's linking to you is also a high quality site. You may have a good friend that wants to suck off the high quality of your website. If they don't have a very good website, you may not want to link back over to them because that's not going to count as a high quality link. And your SEO provider really should have a process in place. Acquiring backlinks to your site is a very laborious process if you're doing it the white hat way, because you're not buying links. You're not putting a whole bunch of links on your own SEO provider's website, which I have seen SEO providers do, where they say, well, we'll give you a whole bunch of high quality links, and they just link you over to all of their websites, which really is giving them the SEO juice, not you so much, because that is something that Google could end up seeing as a link scheme of you trying to game the system. So watch out for that with providers that are giving you a bunch of links to their own websites. And they got to have a process in place. Are they trying a lot of different tactics? Are they asking you, what are your connections in the community? Who are your referral sources? These are all easy pickings for possible backlinks to your site.
Okay. Are you adding fresh content to my website regularly? And what does that entail? You should ask any SEO provider that you're interviewing those questions. So content is one of the more heavily weighted quality indicators that search engines measure to determine website rank. And if you think about it, it really makes a lot of sense. Search engines will say that yours is a higher quality website if you post content regularly. So if you're not letting the website get stale, they're going to give you more points for that. But it shouldn't just be any content. It needs to be well-written content. And Leanne hit on a good point. There's a lot of SEO providers out there that understand the technical components of SEO, but they're not good writers, and they're not people who are experienced in content procurement for the target audience that home care agencies want to go after. So it really needs to be well-written content of a prescribed length, that's subject matter that's of interest or relevant, as we would say in SEO, and helpful to your target audiences. So it needs to be the kind of content that people are looking for and that answers the questions that they're asking when they have loved ones who are in need of home care, or they themselves are people who could be out there looking for in-home services. So stuff like recipes, that stuff doesn't cut it. That's kind of back in those old Wild West days of SEO, when, just any content would do. That does not work anymore. They have ways of sussing out what is good content and what is bad content, what matters to your audience, what is just you putting words up on the website. In terms of what is content, we talked about metadata is considered content and should be well written, as well as include the technical keywords that you want to hit. Blogs, landing pages, city pages, metadata, image data, those are all considered content, and you really need to ask what that SEO provider is going to be providing in terms of adding new content, because that's a very weighty measure that the search engines are looking for. Okay, and then site speed. So another question to ask is, do you regularly evaluate site speed, and do you work to make the site faster? We know, because we are consumers ourselves, these days consumers have a real need for speed, if you will, and they expect your site to load quickly and move fast as they travel from page to page and click on the things that they want to see and read. If things aren't moving, loading, or opening fast enough, they may leave your website altogether. And when enough folks leave or bounce, as we say in SEO, your measured bounce rate goes up. And that's another metric that search engines use and may hold against your site and rank it lower if people are leaving. Slowness is an indicator of poor quality to search engines. So you need to be asking an SEO provider if they are looking at site speed and what they do to make the site run faster.
Does this company that you're interviewing regularly perform a heat map analysis? Some of you may not know what a heat map is. There's a little picture of one here on the screen. And basically what it is showing is where visitors are looking on your website, as well as where they're clicking. So if you have some of your most important information at the bottom of your page, I can already tell you from looking at years and years of heat maps that most likely that information is getting missed. A lot of people look at the top of your screen, and you can see that with a heat map. You have a really important call to action, maybe a contact form on your sidebar that you want to know, why aren't people clicking on this? It could be the heat map will show that it's a placement issue, or it could be that it's a content issue. It's not enticing enough. Maybe you need a different picture there. Maybe you need to rearrange the bullets of your services because lots of people are clicking on the Alzheimer's care, which is buried at the bottom. And you might get some more people clicking on that if it was at the top of your service list. These are the sort of things that a good SEO provider will be thinking about and looking at, is that user journey through your site, and how do you shepherd them to take the actions that you want them to take, such as filling out an application, calling you, or filling out your contact form. Do you optimize our site for local search? I've talked to clients who have been interviewing SEO providers who really hit hard on this local search. And a lot of times it means the SEO provider is creating pay-per-click ads for you, which is different than search engine optimization. Pay-per-click, as soon as you stop paying for those ads, all of the benefits of those ads disappears immediately. With SEO, that is a much longer term benefit. It's not going to immediately disappear. If you take a month off from SEO, your ranking isn't going to instantly drop. So that's sort of the difference there. With local search for home care, it really is crucial because even though you do have out-of-towners looking for care, those out-of-towners are going to type into the search engines things like Orlando home care or Topeka home care, because they're looking for care in a particular area. So you need to work with an SEO provider who understands your target audience really well. What are the types of keywords that they're going to be using? What are the keywords that maybe other providers, a lot of people are searching for, but other competitors in your area aren't taking advantage of those keywords yet. A good SEO provider will be able to suss those little tips out.
Yeah, I wanted to add to that last slide that you really want, can we go back to the last slide just for a second? Because SEO is working on the quality of the site, you really want to be doing that before you do PPC, or at the very least while you're doing PPC. So I think you can understand from what we're talking about today that SEO, it looks at how people are moving through the site and tells us how we should change things so that they can move through the site and get where they need to go faster, with the ultimate goal of either calling you or filling out a contact form. Wouldn't you want to make sure that that's all working the right way before you started doing PPC? Because what PPC does is you spend a lot of money and you go after driving a lot of people to your site. And what if something's not working right on your site and you're driving all these people to it and things are not working right, or they're not loading right, or they're clicking on something that's not clickable? It's really important to understand the differentiation. SEO works on the quality, and why don't you work on the quality first before you drive tons of people there? So I just think it's really important to point that out. We're not against doing PPC, but make sure you're doing the SEO too, to make sure that all the quality indicators are up to snuff.
One thing I am realizing as I'm looking at this slide is that you may not know what city pages are. We talk about them all the time. So I probably overlooked the fact that you guys are probably looking at that thinking, what in the heck are city pages? Because of the way Google locates your agency, it's going to know that you serve in a place where you have a physical address. So if you have an address in Atlanta, Georgia, it will be easy to rank in Atlanta, Georgia, because you have the address there. But obviously you serve more than just Atlanta. You serve a lot of the communities around Atlanta, and you want to make sure that Google realizes that you service those areas. Creating city pages for each of the cities that you service is a great way to let Google know that you serve that city. And it's basically a page of text on your website that talks about your agency and your services, but mentions that particular city throughout the text. You don't want to stuff it in there 100 million times. You want it to look natural, but it really does focus on just that one city. So there you go. That's what a city page is.
All right, and now we're going to talk a little bit about website maintenance. So it would be a good idea to ask an SEO provider, do they also perform website maintenance? And if they don't, you know, do they understand how important website maintenance is? Leanne mentioned earlier, your website is like a smartphone. So just like your smartphone, you know, new operating systems, or for websites, they're actually called content management system updates, are released anywhere from 5 to 10 times a year. And each time an update is released, just like on your phone, it needs to be, you need to stop and install it on your website. And not doing so can result in slower speed and functionality issues that can drive users away. Also, like your smartphone, your website also has apps. On a website, these are called plugins, and plugins allow for certain functionalities on your site, like forms, etc. Plugins also have updates that are released throughout the year, and not updating plugins can hurt your SEO as well as the security of your website. So we think it's ideal, you know, it's not necessary, but it is ideal to have the same provider doing SEO and updates, because a good SEO provider should be concerned about updates being done on time, because out-of-date operating systems and out-of-date plugins can negatively affect your website's functionality, security, and SEO.
A few questions you should ask yourself. Sometimes you will lose sight of the prize with SEO, because especially with pay-per-click, you can see, oh, there's tons more people coming to my site. But the real question isn't, are there tons more people coming to the site? The real question is, are more people calling for services or for employment? Are more people filling out your forms and applications? I mean, that's the end game here. That's what you really want. Are these people that are coming to your site ones that actually need home care? Is this the right audience that you're driving to your site? If the answers to that is no, then it is definitely time to find a new SEO provider. I want to talk a little bit about corecube's SEO. We have a very extensive background in targeting home care audiences. Many of us at corecubed have used home care for our family members, have lots of health. We're pretty much your target audience. So that's another way that we really understand the market. Not only have we been doing it for a decade, but we pretty much are your target audience. We understand what motivates your target audience to come to your site and fill out forms and give you a call.
A lot of, I was going to say, in more instances, we've had people who have worked with other SEO providers, and when they come to us, what they appreciate is that because all we work with is the home care industry, that we understand the audience, we understand the language, we understand how to write for that target audience, and that many times SEO providers who work with all different types of businesses have a pretty big learning curve when they try to write information for home care agency websites.
Yes. Here's just a stat of one of our SEO clients who had 156% increase in their organic traffic, people who were finding their site through doing searches on particular keywords. So that's a nice jump within a year. This graphic kind of shows the importance of adding content regularly to the site and how that will positively affect your SEO. The client in blue was one that blogged 4 times a month, And the client in purple was one who did not add any fresh content to the site. So you can see the number of sessions, that would be the number of times people came to the site, as well as the organic search of how many people found the site through searches online, increased dramatically for the client that was blogging regularly. We want to go ahead and open it up to questions now. If you have a question, please type it into that little Q&A, and we will answer those. While we're doing the Q&A, I also want to put the contact information up on the screen so that if you come up with a question afterwards or are a little bit shy to ask it during the webinar, you can contact us directly, either by phone or by email.
I want to address one that Amy answered privately, but I think you misread the question, Amy. It says, can you give us an example of a white hat process?
And I gave an example of a black hat process.
Yeah. That's all right. But all the things that we're covering in our questions today could be, should be considered white hat processes. So like, we talked about adding good, readable meta descriptions that do include keywords, as opposed to stuffing those meta descriptions with just keywords, just to see if it'll help you rank higher. So following, in essence, your white hat processes are going to be anything that Google considers good. So good content that's relevant to your target audience. The backlinking that Marissa spoke about earlier in the webinar, and doing that backlinking the right way, as opposed to linking to lower, or the link rings. Marissa can talk more about backlinking than I can, but all of the questions that we've asked, or that we're asking you to ask your SEO providers, should help you find those good white hat processes.
Mm-hmm. All right, any other questions? Speak now. All right, it doesn't look like we have any other questions right now. So again, if you have a question you want to ask privately, please feel free to reach out to us at the contact information on this screen. And thank you very much for your time today. Thank you, Amy, and thank you, Leanne, for joining me today. And we appreciate your time, and we hope you have a great rest of your week.